I think very few people, you left Geneva a few years ago. They still think you belong to Geneva. But Professor, you're most welcome. I have also seen Dr. Yasin Olum seated at the front there. There are two people I'm skipping for now. I'll introduce you in a moment for a reason. I'll come to you in a moment. Yeah, but let me recognize Dr. Patrick Wakida from Research World International, seated at the front next to Jimmy. And he's wearing a red tie, so that ties in with, Jimmy must be happy that they're seated together, because that's some of the colors. We will have a presentation of an audit of the performance of Parliament in its current life, the 9th Parliament, which was conducted by the... And then after that, but before that, we'll have a few speeches. We also have the presentation of the report, which I'm told is a very long one. Initially, there were about 100 slides. Job has been trying to cut them down so that it fit within the time we're going to spend here. And then we'll have a panel discussion. Some of you will constitute a panel that will sit here. We have a debate. And then we will have a plenary discussion. And we should have ended our business by 1 o'clock later. But by midday, we should have covered a significant portion of what we need to debate. Now, there have been many audits of Parliament, especially the 9th Parliament. Some have been done ad hoc on the street. You meet people on the street and they'll tell you what they think of the 9th Parliament. With due respect to the members of Parliament who are in here and those who work with them, there are people who have done street audits of the performance of Parliament. We have done a lot more audits of the performance of the 9th Parliament on radio talk shows, on TV talk shows. So we have a fair idea of what Ugandans think has been that performance. But there's another document which was a result of consultations with Ugandan citizens called the Citizens' Manifesto. What Ugandans felt they wanted for Parliament to do, for government to do, or elected leaders to do over the course of 5 years between 2011, when this government was sworn in, to 2016, when its term comes to an end. May 2011, May 2016. Political parties presented their manifesto, and anecdotal evidence suggests that the manifesto presented by the National Resistance Movement won the most support of Ugandans who turned out to vote, because they got the mandate to run government for the next 5 years. But there was also that document called the Citizens' Manifesto. What did Ugandan citizens want out of their government for 5 years? So we'll be doing an audit of both in a way. And when the presentations are done, we will structure our discussion on that basis. Let me make an announcement as we go along. You've been picking up a few documents from the entrance registration desk. There will soon be a few copies, I've been told maybe about 30 copies, of an assessment conducted in the month of August by the Citizens Coalition, on behalf of the Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy in Uganda, by Research World International, which is an audit of the ongoing National Security Information Systems Registration, NSIS, commonly known as the National Identity Card Registration. One or two disclaimers. That assessment was done in the last week of the mass registration, which was the first and second weeks, a bit of first and second weeks of the month of August, when most of the systems had been sorted out, people had learned how to use the equipment, people were going out to do the last minute registration of the mass exercise. But the findings are important in a way that if you look at the data produced for the last week of the exercise and know what happened in the first weeks or the first month of the registration exercise, if you interpret that data with that insight, it will be very useful. I've been told that a few copies will be made available at the back, and you can pick up those copies as you leave. If you're lucky to find a copy. If you don't, the registration has your email address that you will be able to share. Said will be able to share the details of that survey. And I think, yeah, Research World, it should be available on the CEDU website, and you can pick it up and read for yourself. I've seen Richard Sewakirianga, who is Executive Director of the NGO Forum. Once I'm given the signal, we should be able to start. I had asked Barongo and friend to come and sit close at this side. I needed the people seated at the back to come and sit on this side so that we're closer to one another and we're not stretching to find where you are, to be able to participate in this discussion. Will be the Speaker of Parliament, Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga, is supposed to be here by now. She actually asked that this discussion be held in the morning because of her busy schedule, and she asked that it be held on this day. She hasn't come yet, but we're hoping that she's making her way here. Lots of things have been happening on the political spectrum, so you can never know what might be holding people back at a time like this. But we'll be watching, and we'll let you know what is going on and how the program will be running. So we should be able to start in a few minutes. Thank you.
even if 18 acts were passed by this 9th Parliament, it has a problem with the budget and the budgeting process, which is weakening state institutions. Some of the state institutions that I dare mention to you is the public service, the police, the judiciary, okay? These state institutions are not given sufficient resources to do their job. How do you expect a police officer to earn 200 or so thousand shillings in a month, and you expect that police officer, like the police, like the teachers, like the health workers, why don't they increase the salaries of these very important state actors? The Honorable Paul Mwires and company, Honorable Akena, they are very good at increasing their own emoluments, because the Constitution provides them with a mandate to increase their own emolument. Something needs to be done to check that abuse of self-interest, because you cannot actually be the one to award yourself your own pay, because we expect you to do it in darkness to keep increasing yours at the expense of increasing those other actors who are very critical in the stability and development of this country.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so
Dr.
much.
Yasin Olum, thank you very much. I think that gives us a good starting point moving forward. Let me ask the next person to speak, the only lady on the panel, and she was asking me if she represents both the women and the youth. Irene Komo is coordinator of Parliament Watch. She's also one of those young African leaders under what is now known as the Nelson Mandela Fellowship under the White House, President Obama's initiative to engage young African leaders. And more recently, she was recognized as the Young Female Lawyer of the Year by the Uganda Law Society. Irene, you watch Parliament, you're a young person, and this report, your quick remarks. I'll give you 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Charles. Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed, good afternoon. Not wanting to take away from what Dr. Olum has stated, I'd like to take this debate further and take it beyond some of the things that have come out of the manifesto and ask the question regarding the stands that we've put in the manifesto and look at the overall impact and effectiveness of Parliament. If we are gauging and giving marks on performance of Parliament, we also need to look at the overall impact of the work that Parliament has done. And I look at this in terms of two roles that Parliament plays. The first being legislation and the second on oversight. And this is just to extend the discussion and the debate beyond the score that has been given. When you look at Parliament's role in legislation, beyond creating laws, I think in terms of performance and making laws, Parliament performs very well. In the last financial year alone, we passed over 17 bills into law. The question then becomes the impact, the overall impact of this legislation. One, in terms of sensitization and publicizing this law. Whose responsibility is it? Is it Parliament's? And if it's Parliament, are they conducively doing that and engaging people in discussions about bills? But also to what happens where Parliament passes laws that are not necessarily good for the citizens. I'll give an example of the Anti-Pornography Act that ideally had good intentions, but ended up leading to the attack of women in the country. Why is there no provision for Parliament to be able to recall such a law? If you look at the rules and procedures of Parliament, there's no provision anywhere where Parliament can have maybe 15 or 30 days after passing legislation, but before the President has assented, for it to be able to recall a bad law and review it. That means when we have bad legislation passed, we have to suffer the impact and go through other procedures to review law. Now, reviewing law means you must go to court and petition against this legislation. And then a motion is tabled in Parliament to introduce an amendment or to repeal, and it goes through the same process. But you see, The report says that the repeal of certain sections of the Penal Code have not happened till now. The motion was tabled in Parliament by Honorable Ali Salaso, but we still haven't had this go through the process. And so what happens where you have adverse effects that need to be solved immediately, but don't have? When you look at the aspect of oversight, my biggest question is in terms of effectiveness of the work that's done by the oversight committees and how that impacts the role of government. Parliament, ideally, is the one that pushes for transparency and accountability of government. But the question then becomes whether the work they are doing has the effect that it's intended to have. While we have oversight committees, especially the accountability committees working hard, I think PAC local government accounts and COSASE sit the most. PAC sometimes sits up to 8 p.m. They meet a lot of times, sometimes are recalled from recess. And we see them on TV every day, but what is the overall impact? There are recommendations that are made by committees and adopted by Parliament that are then not adopted by the government. So the question is, what happens to that process and how is that useful? When you look at recommendations that were made, for example, on the Umeme report that was adopted by Parliament, making recommendations as extreme as terminating the contract, there was no response from government. We don't know where that process has ended. What is the value of recommendations and resolutions made by Parliament? Parliament is now doing an audit of NSSF that went ahead to buy shares in Umeme after they made recommendations to terminate. The same Parliament, its pension scheme bought shares in NSSF. And so these are questions about effectiveness. So when we are evaluating the effectiveness of Parliament, when we look at recommendations again made about OPM and recommendations to have certain people prosecuted, but we don't see this following through, I think evaluating the role of Parliament should go beyond what they do in the institution and go into the overall impact of the work that they do on pushing for transparency and accountability of government. And so when we are questioning whether Parliament is effective, we need to question whether even the work that Parliament is doing is having the impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene. Let me move over there.
Need I remind our audience in here at Hotel Africana and those watching us on NTV and those following this discussion on Twitter, the Twitter handle, the hashtag is MP Review 2014, and it is the midterm review of the performance of the 9th Parliament. I'm going to call the third panelist to speak to us. A lot of issues are being raised and are emerging. Dr. Yasin Olum gave his assessment. How much do you contribute to the situation in which members of the 9th Parliament find themselves? Jack Wamanga Wamai, we have on the table here, we only have opposition members of Parliament, one from the FDC, another from UPC, the representative of the Speaker is from FDC, but that discussion about when it comes to the question of emoluments or facilitation for members of Parliament, we never hear it come out. Irene raises another interesting question as part of this assessment, of this audit. You have passed 18 bills into law. Some of them have been signed into acts of Parliament. What does the Ugandan population remember of the laws you have passed? Public Order Management Act is a signature piece of legislation passed by your Parliament. The Anti-Pornography Act is another signature law passed by this Parliament. You look at the Anti-Homosexuality Act, it has been overturned by court. You've been raising signatures across the board to have it revived, to have it debated again. And people asking, when you look at the legislation, how does it help? And then the other question I'd like to put to Jack Wamanga, as you come to make your submission on this report, is from the 7th Parliament, if I remember well, not much of the 6th Parliament, every Parliament complains that you share your money with the citizens. Where does the discussion about the kind of service delivery oversight on government that you apply go when it comes to this debate? Because if you wouldn't have to pay for everybody who comes to get treatment at Mulago if people were being treated in Mbale, for example. You wouldn't have to pay to transport a body because people wouldn't be dying in Kampala going to Mbale. Why should Mbale people be dying in Kampala? And unless they are here for business and they can be able to take their dead back to Mbale. Why should those be questions of Parliament? And could you come and speak for 3 minutes?
Thank you very much, Charles. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank the organizers of this forum today and to thank the Citizens Coalition for raising these important issues. Now, you as citizens, you have the right to follow and do checks and balances of what your members of parliament do. You have the right because you voted for us, and therefore you must follow and see what we are doing in parliament. Secondly, you do this because you want service delivery, and that's quite important. The other issue, the issues raised here this afternoon are quite important. Quite important because as citizens of Uganda, you expect your parliament, members of parliament, to follow and see what the executive does. And this is part of what the members of the opposition in the House do. We follow what goes on in parliament, we follow what the executive does, and we criticize them, we tell them that whatever you are doing is wrong. Now, when you look at the Constitution, you look at the issue of human rights, it's in the Constitution of Uganda. But you see the government itself that is supposed to implement what is in the Constitution, it goes violating the human rights. I'm glad Sekaja is here, and she's a member of the UN. Now, every year at the UN conference in Geneva, the issue of human rights comes up, and the fingers are pointed at Uganda. And you see how people are arrested. You see how people are bundled and thrown on pickups, how people are kept in safe houses. And moreover, the Constitution is very clear about that. But the government itself does all these things. Now, there are quite a number of issues. I'll pick the issue of emoluments. You see, I don't also support it that Parliament should determine its emoluments. It should be a commission that should decide what members of parliament should get. But I want to tell you here, Honorable Mwil talked about it. It's because politics, elections have been monetized in Uganda. And this is done because of the government in power. They have got resources. When they go out there to campaign, they splash out a lot of money. And therefore, all citizens, the people behind there, think that as a member of parliament, you have to do this and that for them. So this puts members of parliament in a very complicated situation. We talked about members of parliament getting bribes from government. I want to tell you here that possibly those on the government side are the ones who get bribes from government officials. They have even gone to the president openly and said, Mr. President, we want you to bill us out of all these loans we have, all these problems we have. And the government does that to government side. They do this because there are lots of demands from members of parliament. Now, I want to tell you one thing. A member of parliament comes to the House. He's expected to have a decent home in Kampala. He has never been to Kampala. He goes to buy a piece of land to put up a house. And when you look at what he gets, possibly that money is not enough. And therefore, they receive bribes from the executive to make sure they fulfill the standards of a member of parliament. The other issue that makes members of parliament perhaps vulnerable to some of these things you hear about, is because of the demands from the electorate. They demand a lot. They expect you to do everything for them. And moreover, we used to have what they call Constituency Development Fund. This money was just only 10 million, and it was not enough to do much. When you look around the East African area, and you see what our friends get across, the members of parliament of Kenya, they are able to satisfy the demands of their people because the Constituency Development Fund they get is quite enough and can take care of the demands of their people. And for the members of Parliament of Uganda, this is a very difficult task, a very difficult task. Secondly, you have also to plan of thinking of coming back to Parliament. And therefore, when your members, the people who elected you, come to you demanding and asking, you'll end up trying to do what they want. You'll end up trying to satisfy their needs, and those things are not enough. The issue of health services that Charles talked about, it's the work of government to give the services to the people, to put up hospitals, to put in medicine. But in most cases, you go to these hospitals, I'll talk about Mbale. I've always talked about it on the floor of Parliament, that there will be no need for somebody to leave Mbale to come to Mulago. If there were medications, if there were medicines in Mbale Hospital, if the doctors were on the wards, but in most cases, you don't find doctors on the wards. Why? This now brings me to what a doctor earns. A doctor goes to a medical faculty. He puts in 6 years. Now, at the end of his course, he's employed by the Minister of Health. How much is this doctor being paid? 800,000, 700,000. And therefore, this money cannot meet the requirements of a qualified doctor. And therefore, this doctor will not spend most of the time in the hospital. He would rather run from this clinic to another clinic to make his ends meet. So you find all these issues that the government must do. Now, why isn't government able to pay the doctors enough money? We have a lot of money. I used to be a member of the Public Accounts Committee, and I want to thank the coalition, Citizen Coalition. When you look at that black man and you look behind and look at the money, look at the billions that has been stolen. This money should have been enough to pay our doctors, to make them stay in wards, to stay in Mbale. This money should have been enough to pay our teachers, to pay the policemen. But the money is being stolen. We have raised these issues on the floor of Parliament. We want you as citizens to come our side, to support us. I still always talk about, I don't know why you forgot one issue, the question of a very large parliament. We don't need all this parliament in Uganda. A banana republic, as it was referred to by Monaghan at the UN. We don't need 367 members. We don't need affirmative action. I know that women have campaigned on their own right and have come to Parliament. So we don't need such a huge Parliament. That takes a lot of money. We have talked about the iPads and the stationery. The issue of iPad came in because government was spending billions and billions on stationery, printing out a lot of documents. And at times, we don't even have enough time to read these documents. That's why they come up with the issue of iPad. I don't know, I didn't know that even the cost of stationery still remains high. I thought that maybe the cost of stationery had gone down because of the iPads. But I still believe that you people should come up and support us. All these issues you have raised here, some of us who belong to the opposition side, we have raised them in Parliament.
Honorable,
but we want you.
I hate to cut you there, but when you read from the Book of Lamentations, and we invite the citizens of Uganda to read from the Book of Lamentations, someone will ask them to read, is it Isaiah or Daniel? I don't remember quite well. Where shall I turn? That's what I think the Bible asks. Where shall I turn? Because you say, you've listed all these things, and they're valid. They're valid issues that you're raising. But you are a member of Parliament, elected and empowered. These citizens, you pass the Public Order Management Bill, is signed into an act of Parliament. So they can't even work, including the people from Black Monday, as you were talking about. They can't assemble, they can't demonstrate. Where should Ugandans stand?
Yes, this goes again to Parliament. Of course, we raised the issues on the floor of Parliament, but we were defeated because of the large numbers, because of the people that you elected to come to Parliament that don't raise the issues. It's only a few members of Parliament who raise most of these issues. And that's why we go lamentation. But as Ugandans, I want you to speak up. I want you to keep talking about the poor bill we passed in Parliament, Public Order Management Bill. This is against citizens. You can't meet as a group and discuss some of these issues. So we keep lamenting because we raised these issues and were defeated on the floor of Parliament.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
May I have, Moses Kajango, you report from Parliament and members of parliament are always complaining. I'm told there are two waiting rooms on the south wing and on the northern wing of parliament, and they are always full with people. Some want school fees, others want medical bills, others want, yes, they want to take the dead back home to Lira, to Mbale, to Jinja, to Fort Portal and elsewhere. Reporting parliament and watching the presentation of this audit, is this a fair assessment of the 9th parliament? Can it, in the remaining time to May 2016, be able to redeem itself and refocus and revive that optimism it had created at its swearing in May 2011?
Thank you very much, Charles, and the organizers of this event. As you have heard, my name is Moses Kajang. I'm the Secretary General of Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. As far as I'm concerned, the Citizen Manifesto, which is you are seeing behind here, I was part of this Citizen Manifesto, and we've been spearheading this as a member of Citizen Coalition for Electoral Democracy, where I sit as on the advisory board. And what you heard this morning, it's not new from me, and I have been behind this. But going to what, as a journalist reporting in the parliament, this parliament, the 9th parliament, started well, and people had a lot of hope in the 9th parliament. But according to the report which they presented to you, the issue of caucusing political parties, especially the NRM, when the caucusing started, you have seen that members of parliament now are fearing to talk on the floor of parliament. And this one should have been highlighted as one of the problems that are faced by the 9th parliament. You find that members of parliament are not talking as a result that they have to go or to support the party position. Especially, I have seen that the NRM has been summoned in State House to discuss a certain bill that has been brought on the floor of parliament. And as we talk now, there is also another caucus which is going on right now. That's why you are not seeing the members of NRM seated here. That's why you're seeing opposition. But as far as we are concerned in parliament, we play our oversight role as journalists in parliament. And we have a contract with you, the public, and we send a contract with you to inform you what is happening in the parliament. And we play our role as journalists. But the most important thing which I picked from the presentation is that most of the things that were highlighted, to some extent, they are true. They are true because we have not seen these members of parliament coming out to debate on the floor of parliament. The decisions that are passed on the floor of parliament are just like how they say that they are advisory in nature. Either government can decide to take it on or they can drop it. Like my sister has said that the Umeme report which was passed, up to now we cannot see what government has taken, a decision taken by government. We see that the report is just there because they think that as parliament, the decisions or the resolutions which they pass on the floor of parliament are just advisory. And if I can respond again to Charles, I don't see much with the remaining calendar of parliament that there will be improvement. That one will not be there. Because now imagine members of parliament will be going for party primaries. And of course you are going to see an empty house compared to the over 300 members of parliament who are elected to represent you in the parliament. We are going to see an empty house as far as the NRM primaries and other party primaries are concerned. They are going to go out there to look for votes. Like Honorable Muiru Said, who represented the Speaker of Parliament, that yes, it is true, there are also other people on the ground there who are working hard to make sure that they take the seats. That's why you see that parliament at times it is empty because the members of parliament are also going there to look for support as the opponents are also fighting them in the parliament. But the overall, the expectation of this 9th parliament, people expected a lot from them. But due to unavoidable circumstances, as far as this caucus and the other things are concerned, you have seen that it is declining as a result of that. But as a media or as a journalist in Parliament, we have played our oversight role. I will quote the words of former Chief the George Kanyeihamba, the Justice George Kanyeihamba. He once said that there is no opposition in Uganda, and the only opposition in Uganda is the media. And we have tried to highlight to you, as our oversight role is concerned, to tell you what is happening, and you can also judge on your own.
Thank you very much.
Maybe lastly, Charles, as a journalist reporting in the Parliament as an association, we fought hard to see that our rights are respected in Parliament, whereby we moved on our own to see that we put our gadgets inside Parliament, because in the past we used not to take our gadgets in Parliament. Now we can bring you things live in Parliament to see that everything that happens. You see members of Parliament sleeping in Parliament, but we bring it to you. That is our oversight role that we play. But we played our part to see that appointments, there are still 2 committees in Parliament which are still closed to the media. That is our Appointments Committee and the Business Committee. And we would like also, since we signed a contract with you people, the masses out there, we would like also to support and see that our Appointments Committee and the Business Committee is open to the media, because the representatives that appear before that committee, they represent the views of you, the public who are seated there, and those who are watching us right now. Thank you very much.
The verdict by the media, Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, is that Honorable Jimmy Akena, you are left with so little time to win back Lira municipality, but also recover the optimism you created at the beginning of this term of Parliament, I'd like to come and speak to that. Yeah. You also have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Charles. Although I find this assessment to be on the fairer side, I think a lot of it falls in the area of misperception. Because I am seeing issues raised about Parliament not amending laws, what Parliament is not doing, but we don't seem to take cognizance of the fact that the agenda of Parliament is driven by politics. And the agenda of these 5 years is based supposedly on the manifesto of 2011. Now, if you have a party with its own agenda, running the agenda of the country, and then to look at the first issue which was raised on the Citizens' Manifesto, dealing with laws, or dealing with laws which are, you can say, dictatorial laws. Are we being honest with ourselves to expect a government which has entrenched itself over the years using constitutional aspects and these sort of laws to be the one to drive the agenda of amending these articles? And then you put it on Parliament that Parliament has not done any of this aspect. If there was a political will to open up the political space, it can be done in the shortest of time. But you have to start with the aspect of where is the political will, what is the agenda which is going to drive the debate in Parliament. Matters were raised on the emoluments. Personally, the political philosophy I come from is a philosophy of equity. If you go back to our track record as UPC, when salaries are being increased, from the lowest to the highest, there was an increase across the board. But the percentages were different. Now, Dr. Yassin raised the issue of a policeman. Under UPC, the policeman will get the 80 to 100% increase. At the same time, where you have the executive director of KCCA, I think being possibly the highest earning civil servant, the percentage increase will be far less. Either 1%, 5%, but it was an increase across the board. I support that philosophy. But I cannot, as an individual member, bring my idea and impose it on Parliament. The issues which are going to come in the budgeting and the plans of where the country is going to go is going to come from the executive. And the executive is going to base on what they're going to be going out for as we go to 2016. They will lay out their priorities. So on one aspect, I agree totally with the assessment which has been made. But what we're missing in this assessment is that it is politics which will drive any future development, and any of the matters which the Citizens Manifesto contains are going to be driven by politics. If we go into elections and we elect a party which is not concerned about agriculture, you're not going to get increase in expenditure in agriculture. If we have poor health services and you don't have the political will to sort out the health services, it will remain in that situation. And then you cannot come at a later stage and say, what has Parliament done or what is Parliament not doing? So this is something which we have to take seriously as citizens of this country. What do we want for this country? And that is what will drive the agenda which will drive politics, which will drive Parliament. To look at Parliament in isolation, you are limited. There are issues which we have not supported, there's issues which we stood against, and there's this issue which keeps coming up that whatever Parliament resolves is advisory. So, the will to change, the will to implement a Citizens Manifesto must be based in politics. So the NGO Forum also must engage itself in mobilizing people towards the issues which people feel are necessary. To knock on the doors of the parties before they get to Parliament and say, please, are you going to be dealing with these issues? Are we going to be dealing with these issues on a serious note? That is where you're going to get possibly the 10th Parliament to be more effective. As things stand at the moment, we are limited. That one I'll admit openly. There's very little we can do, especially in opposition, to move these matters. You can raise your matters, put it on record, and it will end there. Even when the House resolves, it remains advisory.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was actually waiting for that bit to be said. Is there hope?
Yes.
I think the verdict is clear. We're going into a very busy season of politics. Dr. Patrick Wakida, and then I'll come to the audience and we'll engage these members here and ask them if you had questions, because sending the responsibility back to us is not enough. They still have to account to us. Otherwise, we might have to ask ourselves, is the expenditure by the Ugandan citizen on Parliament, on elections that appear to be more cyclical and routine, necessary? Dr. Patrick Wakida, people get lost in the numbers, and I know you prefer, you're a statistician, and you talk a lot about numbers. When you find a 4%, a 22%, a 36%, a 55%, what does it mean?
Thank you, Charles.
3 minutes.
One thing I want to talk about here is the credibility of the evaluation. I spent much of my evening yesterday looking at the credibility and whether this exercise deserves our attention. And like I've always said, the process of any research determines the credibility of the output. When I looked at the different angles in which this study was conducted, my conclusion was that they got it right, and therefore the data can be relied upon. When I looked at the conceptualization of the survey I also found that to a greater extent, their conceptualization merits. However, when I looked at the intention, whether this is a mid-term evaluation, as it's supposed to be. Mid-term means it has to check where you started from with the objective set and where you are, both on the administrative and the financial, coupled with all the intentions. I found that it could be very difficult for us at this point to begin putting marks on this. Let me say this. In a summary, the study points to one direction, that the interest of the population is at a greater variance with the MPs and the leadership. The expectations of the population of their MPs is beyond what the MPs can deliver. I have always said that expectations and perceptions defines how somebody reads your progress or performance. But let us ask ourselves, who are these MPs? Dr. Lum has already said they are NRMs. How do they work? They work under suppressive environment. Do they know what they are doing? And that's a very critical question. Legislation is a function of a number of things. One of them is knowledge. The other one is what Professor was talking about, the space for you to be able to discuss, the space for you able to be free and therefore air your vision, as the reporter from Parliament was saying. Unfortunately, all this seems to be at risk, as we see in the report. Scoring below 50%, professor will tell you that if it was in class, unless if I gave you a compensatory mark, you would never pass. Below 50% is bad enough for you to repeat a class. Has the Parliament therefore performed? Is the question therefore. The Parliament, especially the 9th Parliament, gave hope. Unfortunately, it has all ended up in a preoccupation to pass laws that only suppress the population. That's no question. They have passed laws that less promote the human dignity and promote the continuity and longevity of the state. And of course, this is because, as we have established, the majority of members of Parliament are NRM, and it would be wrong, actually, if they use that as a strategy, because any political actor would want to continue to stay in power, whatever the means. Therefore, has the Parliament that we sent, the members of Parliament that we sent doing their job? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. My conclusion again is that there is a complete variance, there is a complete disconnect between the expectation of the population and what our members of Parliament are doing in the House. And you can see that our brothers in Parliament are preoccupied with passing those laws. They are preoccupied of increasing their salary. But is that what people expect of them? That's the question I'll leave. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Can I have a big round of applause to our panelists? I'll start and go through them one by one. Moses Kajangu from the Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. Give me some energy. Irene Ikomu, Young Female Lawyer of the Year, Parliament Watch. Dr. Patrick Wakida, Research World International. Dr. Professor Yassine Loum, Makerere University. The Honorable Jimmy Akena, Uganda People's Congress, Lira Municipality. And the Honorable Jack Wamanga Wamai, FDC Mbale Municipality. Thank you very much, gentlemen and lady, for those intriguing issues you have raised. We're now opening this debate to the audience. Share your views on the report, the audit of the 9th Parliament, the midterm audit of the 9th Parliament. And I'll ask the panelists to stay. We will have opportunity for them to respond to those. Can I have some microphones in the audience quickly? UGMP Secretariat, please help me have some microphones in the audience. We want to be as fair as possible to everybody in the audience and everybody here, because all of you are important, but practically it is impossible that all of you will speak. So some of you will speak, some of you will not be able to speak. Let me start with someone who engaged with this process very closely. Chris Pikahero, coordinator of SEDU, is somewhere behind the cameras there. And then I'll come to you. So keep your comment brief, to the point, and use less than a minute.
Thank you very much, Charles, and all protocol observed. 3 quick questions, actually not comments. Number 1, when you hear from our members of parliament, they are bouncing the responsibility back to us, the citizens. Where do we turn? Yeah? Number 2, we've had a very interesting admittance from our members of parliament, but Honorable Jack Wamanga Wamai has put it so well that they have failed. Yeah? So are we going to see this admittance transforming into them eating humble pie? Come 2016, they say, we have failed. Let's go home and give a chance to a new team. That's number 2. Number 3, just one last one. When it comes to the role of parliament, I want to be very clear. When it comes to the role of parliament, I have not had any of these members of parliament on their campaign trail going out to speak about the role of parliament alongside what they will be going to parliament to do. Now, it should not be after they have been elected and sent to parliament that they now come and lament to ASEAN to say that now, you know, it's a lot of money that we are spending. Why say it now? Why did you say it then? And for me, those are fundamental questions.
Thank you.
I raise my question.
Thank you very much. Let's have the gentleman here. We have an audience online. We have an audience on live TV.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Osman. I'd like to ask Honorable Wamanga 2 questions. As a leader, as a member of the parliament and on the opposition side, I've never had any member of the parliament who's on the side of the opposition complaining about their salary, as in their remuneration. Every other time they are adding themselves money, and they have never complained on the floor of the parliament. Secondly, as the member of the opposition, we have seen you as the members of the opposition at times disappointing us by taking the money, like to go and talk about the lands. And where we have seen you keeping quiet and getting disorganized the more.
Thank you very much. Let's have the lady there, and then we'll come to Vincent. Let's have the lady. Kindly keep it to 1 comment so that we have as many of us contributing as possible.
Okay, I'll restrict myself to the marriage and divorce bill, which the young lady lawyer there had pointed out.
Could you tell us your name?
My name is Basaza Gloria. Being same profession, I would like to add my voice to hers that this parliament has not addressed itself to human rights and dignity of the person. And I would like to quote from your pamphlet here, where you say that 2 billion was spent just to collect a law on trivia. That is what they call the mini-skirt law. Instead of addressing the property rights of the woman and other aspects of that bill, which were concerning matters like bride price, slavery, that is modern slavery. But instead of addressing property rights under the Marriage Act, on all the other factors, so we would like to urge the next parliament to have this bill brought back and be changed. That's what we expect from parliament, to legislate. So I'm urging all the women voters out there this time, peg your votes to your right. Mine is a comment.
Thank you very much. Can we have Vincent here? And I would like to thank those who have been with us on TV. We are continuing with this discussion. Vincent, keep your comment to one issue so that we can be able to move on.
Thank you very much, Charles. My name is Vincent Nwagaba. I'm a political scientist. What I have observed from the presentations that have been made is that I can conclude that the current members of parliament are money parasites. But we should not lament. All of us have failed, even civil society organizations have failed. Let's, instead of lamenting, there is a whole book of lamentations in the Bible. Let's translate the findings and we disseminate them to the masses. Because this business of talking to ourselves, because we all know how the parliament performs. We all know how the 9th parliament has performed. Most of us are elites who listen to English. Translate the report in Runyankole, in Atoli, in Rubara, and we take the report and we disseminate them to the masses. Otherwise, I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vincent. Let's move to this group. No, before we go there, let's ask Professor Jesse Kwesiga. He's chairman of UGMP. You saw this report being birthed and it has been presented and you have had the comments from the members of parliament and from the speaker. Where are we? And Vincent has just asked you, let's not talk to ourselves in hotel rooms. Let's go to Kabale, to Ajumani, to Moyo, to Koboko and discuss these issues.
Thank you very much, Charis. I was supposed to make remarks at the end, so let me make them now. It is okay. Charles, the idea of and about Citizen Manifesto is very clear. And that is to give a chance to the people we insult every morning and every night. What do we call them? Voiceless, vulnerables, all sorts of insults. And we want to show the people, and the people also want to show to the people that actually they have voices, but nobody bothers to listen to their voices. And so the thing about Citizen Manifesto was to enable the people who are normally insulted get a chance to pronounce on how they want to be governed, to pronounce on how they think things should be managed on their behalf, and also to demonstrate that they are alive and given a chance, they can influence what is going on. Not only that, sir, after Citizen Manifesto was published and the views shared out with everybody, we had a responsibility of making sure that we remain in touch with the same people so that progressively they tell us how they view what is going on. And this is what has happened. We've done some monitorings with them to look at the performance of NRM. During the last 2 years we did that. We also did work with them to look at the performance of local governments. Now we are with them to look at the performance of MPs. Personally, somebody who has been working in this field, I'm surprised that the citizens are a bit too generous. Because even this whole thing of MPs getting broke and all that, what exactly do they say during campaigns? I've gone with a number of MPs who are campaigning. They promise things which are so embarrassing here. Really, we shall give you medicines, we shall give you hospitals, we shall give you roads. You give them to them as who? From your pocket? Are you the, I don't know. So I'm sorry, the MPs are paying what they sold. They are eating what they sold. If you promise that, then don't turn around and say that people are selling their votes, are selling their souls. No, that is the expectations, that is the picture you have given to them.
Thank you
For
very much.
us, we are happy with it. And we do hope that from now, as we struggle, the MPs will be with us.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Finally, this Black Monday publication we are talking about, it has been a long journey. Some of our friends were locked up simply because they are talking about corruption. And it's not an accident that we are wearing black shirts.
Thank you very much.
Except you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm wearing a black jacket, and thank you very much for the audience that we have been with on NTV. We got to take a break there to go to the news, but we'll continue with the debate inside here. We'll continue with the debate on Twitter and Facebook, and we'll continue to engage with those external audiences, and of course, continue with us who are inside here. Let's move on with that discussion. I was looking for a black shirt, and I've been also waiting for members of parliament to raise this issue in defense of those who participate or are part of the Black Monday movement. I have moved from this row. I'll come back to you later. Let me first move to the group here. Let's have the gentleman in the T-shirt at the front row there make his comments. We're keeping the same standard. Be fair to other people who haven't spoken yet. So make one comment and keep it simple.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. I am Musa Najapa from Makerere University, a student of ethics and human rights, third year. Before the formation of government, you find that by nature human beings were brutal and life was short. But after the formation of government, John Locke says that he came up with a social contract and they formed the legitimate government, of which that government is pro-people. You find that in Uganda, the MPs, even you MPs, I'm challenging you now, you don't know your roles. You don't know your roles. We are your bosses. We always send you to go to parliament and take our decisions right from grassroots levels. But some of you have failed, like my MP from my constituency. He has never spoken any word like this in parliament there. He one time actually forgot a seat where he's supposed to sit. The constituency is called Bugoli South. He went to someone's seat and then he read Bugoli South, then he was dismissed for 3 months. So you MPs, you don't know your roles. What have you done, to promote the fundamental rights of the people of Uganda? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would have defended the MPs, but they are here to defend themselves. So I won't risk going in that direction. Let's have the gentleman behind there.
Thank you. My name is Alex Manizikumva, a student from Makerere University. Me, it's like a piece of advice to our honorable MPs. You go back and tell them to stop promising earth and heaven during campaigns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have the gentleman here. Yes, if you could take note and then we come back and answer. Let's take this row and then we'll come back and have answers. Let's have those two gentlemen there.
Thank you very much. I'm Kazungu James, Makerere University. I want to tell you this, don't blame the parliament, because if we assess the performance of next parliament, it is totally poor and it is very low. But the parliament is driven by the executive. Even the judiciary itself is driven by the executive. It is our role now to stand up and say no to this old government. Stand up. If you are sleeping for 4 hours when you lose, you are dead. Let us combine our efforts and fight this 2016. I'm Kazungu James, and if I speak to my lecturer from Makerere, this parliament will give it and take.
Thank you very much. Can you give it to your neighbor here? No, the gentleman in front here. I'm coming to the people behind.
Yes, I'm Lorem Cosmas from Makerere University. I just wanted to not blame the 9th Parliament for performing poorly. I would rather blame the party, because they are not representing the people in Parliament. They are representing the interests of the party.
Lolem, there are about 5 parties represented in Parliament: the National Resistance Movement, the Forum for Democratic Change, Uganda People's Congress, the Democratic Party, the Conservative Party, and the Justice Forum Party are all represented in Parliament.
Yes, they are represented, but these MPs go on behalf of the people. Not, they get the ticket of the party, but they should represent the interests of the party, especially the MPs who are on the current party, which is the leading, the NRM party.
they represent their concerns and forgetting the concerns of the citizens. So the MPs, they have their chief priests up there, they are the ones who give them orders, forgetting the interests of the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have the lady there, and then you'll move the microphone to the back. We'll try to come back.
Thank you so much. Wana Beatrice is my name from Deja University. I want to comment on the report. The report, because everything has advantages and disadvantages. So on my side, I think the report was not fair, according to me, because everything, as it is stated, like some of those failures it has mentioned, it must be having some achievements. And for the issue of parliament, I want to talk about that. Some MPs, they just go there to present their constituencies, their people they are leading, but they are not going there to make the rules. So I want to comment on the issue of security, going outside, like Somalia, like northern Sudan, without approval of the parliament. I think that one, it does not mean the parliament proof, because here, why we are having peace in Uganda, it's because of the discount, it's because of the strengths from outside, it's because of the strengths these strengths of security we are having here in Uganda. We are so safe. Other countries are being affected by the wars, but we are having the peace because of that relationship we have created with those neighboring countries.
Thank you very much.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Can you move the microphone to the back, the very last rows, starting with the gentleman there, yes. And then we have the group there. Brother. I'll come back to you. I'll come to that side later.
Okay. Thank you, brother. That is my name. And my questions are two. One will be just an ample piece of advice to my brother, Kajangu, the Secretary General of the Uganda Parliamentary Press Association. It is true, Uganda Parliamentary Press Association does a very good work to inform the citizenry about performance of members of parliament in the plenary, in the committees, and to a very small extent to the constituency work. However, my only concern is to ask you guys to give a balanced view of what the members of parliament do while we're there. That is to say, at times, members of parliament overshadow others in the newspapers, that is to say, in the media, be it in electronic or print, but when their views were actually uttered on the you call them staircases, not in the plenary. So try to balance the way you guys report. But I appreciate what you do. Secondly, come up with a quarterly report on individual performance of members of parliament. And please, don't hesitate to tell the general public that so and so has not caused any debate or has not contributed anything for the past 4 or for the past 3 years.
Thank you very much.
Don't shy away. Do that one. You should do it. If you are constrained by funds, do it on an annual basis. You come up with a report and say, so and so from this constituency did not contribute anything in the committee where he was assigned. Because they have sessional and standing committees. Then they have to contribute in the plenary. Thank you, my brother, for the small.
Thank you very much. I was about to get excited on 2 comments you said. One is, you said, if you don't have the money, I was waiting for you to say, Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, come and see me. And then the other thing is, Moses Kajangu talked about having live broadcasts of parliamentary sessions. If members of parliament are not in the house, or they are not speaking, can the media make them speak? I think Jack Wamanga also talked about a handful of MPs who contribute. Are those the ones we see reflected in the media? Maybe, maybe not. Can we have a few hands there at the back? Yes, the last gentleman there.
Thank you very much. I'm a student from Deja University. Good afternoon to you all.
Your name, sir?
I'm Dachi Gonzaga. Today, for me, the main reason why I came today is, first of all, about this information about the patriotism, because I greatly criticize it because I see it's a wastage of money because you're teaching a child.
Gonzaga, is patriotism one of the assessments that UAGMP did on, as part of its audit of the 9th Parliament?
Well, I'm trying to first explain something here.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is that, well, that they are putting in money in teaching a child how to love his or her own mother. That's the way I take patriotism to be, like the way they're taking it. Patriotism is supposed to be love for, let me say, I myself helping a street kid. That is patriotism. I'm helping a Ugandan. It's supposed to be sacrifice. But now they take students to field, let me say, to the field and they teach them martial arts. They teach them those military skills and something related to that. And then students finish school, let me say university students finish school, and then once they get out of school, they have no jobs. They end up using these techniques to carry out very many crimes like robbery, like let me say theft or things like that, which is a bit deadly. So for me, that's the main reason I want to hear some bit of highlighting on it.
Thank you. Maybe you can help place that into context. The patriotism budget was part of the budget approved by Parliament, and Parliament does the appropriation role of the budget. Maybe you might speak to that. We want to get back to the panelists to respond to the issues raised so far so that we don't lose them. Gentlemen, can you use the microphones gentlemen and lady, can you use the microphones on your tables to respond? We start with the Honorable Jack Wamanga. And do it kind of in summary so that we can save on time.
Thank you very much, Charles. I want to thank all those who asked the questions. The whole issue goes around what a member of Parliament does in the House. First of all, the people elect their leaders to go to Parliament, to pass laws, pass the budget, and raise the issues of the electorate. Now, if you have been following issues in Parliament, I've always articulated the issues of my constituents. And the government has responded. I want to tell you that in Mbale town, which sent me to the House, I I've raised the issues concerning Mbale. And as we talk now, Mbale, which had gone to the docks, is now being repaired. The roads are being repaired, simply because I've been speaking in Parliament and saying, look, Mbale must get this. Secondly, I debate the issues of the budget and pass it in the House. I appropriate the budget. I pass the laws. So the issues that concern the people, I represent them on the floor of Parliament. And I don't sleep at all. You have never seen me sleeping on the floor of Parliament. Now, there's a gentleman who asked the question. Secondly, that issue. Parliament has been trying to educate the public what they do. What members of Parliament do. I've always talked about it. I've educated my people in Mbale, what a member of Parliament does, and the people are aware of that. Now, a gentleman raised the issue of money. I want to tell you that if you follow the issues in Parliament, the 20 million that was given to members of Parliament just like before elections, I turned that down. I turned down the 20 million, I never took it. I said the 20 million was for NADS, and the members of Parliament were not the ones to monitor the exercise of NADS. And it was being done at the last moment. Even the 5 million that was given to members of Parliament, we turned it down. You must have heard about what we call Article 110. You must have heard in the paper, in the press, that some members of Parliament have been given 110 million. I want to tell you that you will never find the name of Honorable Wamai among those ones that Wamai has taken a prize. Now, handing over to other people. Of course, the issue of handing over depends on the electorate. Has the member of Parliament performed in the House? Has the member of Parliament raised the issues of his people? Has there been improvement in constituency? So it's the people to decide on that one. Now, Professor talked about Black Monday. I want to tell Professor that some of us are in record. And as I speak now, I am giving treatment to the people of Mbale who are beaten because of Black Monday. Walk to work. So I've been one at the forefront, raising the issues Because when you look at all those issues raised by Black Monday, is what I was discussing when I was a member of the Public Accounts Committee. Corruption we've been talking about it. I'm a member of the African Parliamentary Network Against Corruption. So we've been talking about that one, and where you find corruption, you'll find me there. Checks and balances. The role of a member of parliament, really, especially the member of opposition, is to do checks and balances and tell government that here you are stealing. You have done nothing for the salaries of the people. You have done nothing for the health sector. And we put them on that always, that you must do this for the people, you must do deliver services to the people of Uganda. The laws, for example, some of us have opposed the Public Order Management Bill, and we have opposed the bad laws. Some of us have spoken against sending our soldiers to some of these places, Somalia, South Sudan, Central African Republic. The government brings it to Parliament. Later on, you can see the audacity, the arrogance of this government. They come in later without even referring to the member of Parliament. I mean, Parliament should give the right for the soldiers to go somewhere. But they do it, and later on they come to the House to ask Parliament passes. Some of us have spoken against that one, and we have said that is wrong. Issue of human rights. Issue of human rights. I'm on record as a shadow minister of foreign affairs. I've talked about the violation of human rights in this country. I go and speak in Geneva, I speak at the UN, and I raise the issue of violation of human rights in this country. Members of Parliament promising. Some of us, you cannot, who know the role of a member of Parliament, you cannot go and tell your electorate that I'm going to build a hospital, I'm going to build a road, I'm going to do this and that, I'm going to give you more money here and there. No, the role of a member of Parliament is to go and legislate, is to pass the budget, is to raise the problems of his constituency. And some of us on the budget sector who have already spoken against supplementary that is brought to the House to give more money, President's office, State House, when the health sector has got nothing, when agriculture has got nothing. We have spoken against this one. Recently, this budget that is which has been debated in Parliament, we have spoken against increasing taxes on salt, on agricultural implements. We're on record because we feel agriculture is one of the major, where majority of Ugandans are involved. We have talked about it. So when you follow the opposition in the House, we are raising the issues that concern the people. So you don't talk of lamentation. We are telling youth supporters, the few of us in the House, who are raising most of these issues. Of course, we are going to talk about them. You elect us, and we tell you, you see where we have stopped, that we have talked against it when the Speaker called for a vote. How many are for? Of course, the majority take the day. Now, what are we left to do as opposition members of Parliament? We appeal to you that next time you elect members of Parliament, send the people who are going to raise your issues. Send the members who are going to talk about your problems in the constituency. Send members of Parliament who are not going to sleep on the floor of Parliament. You will recall that one time the head of state said, for me I don't mind, they can sleep. And when they wake up, they vote for NRM, he doesn't care. But as a member of Parliament, you have got to be attentive and follow the issues of your electorate. Follow the issue of Ugandans. So,
thank you very much. I'd like to ask that you pass some of the issues to your colleague Jimmy Akena to also respond to some of the issues related to Parliament. But I think I pick one thing. Do not blame the people you have sent to Parliament, because you send them there, or we send them there. So sit in the audience and say, you're not doing what? What are you doing when you're electing a particular member of Parliament? Jimmy.
Thank you very much, Charles. I just wish to stress more clearly perhaps than I did originally. When I asked citizens, where do you want your country to be? It is not like I was abdicating my role as a member of Parliament, because on social media it seems to be getting slightly distorted. But the issue is, if you want the Citizens' Manifesto to be implemented from the election process, you need your involvement. Don't expect Afterwards, you come up with a beautiful citizens manifesto, expect whatever government which has its own agenda to implement the agenda for which you stand for. That is something which I wanted to be very clear. Many of these issues where members of parliament are being blamed, it is not us who set the agenda. I heard with concern what the member of the parliamentary press raised, that they do not sit in the business committee. And the business committee sorts out the business of the House. And it is something which involves committee chairs, lead of government business, the lead of opposition, which works out the agenda of what the House is going to be dealing with. So, if you want your agenda, if the Citizens Manifesto is to be part of the agenda of this nation, I'm urging the citizens to get involved in the whole election process, because politics ultimately drives the work of Parliament.
Thank you.
On this issue of members of Parliament promising things which is beyond their scope, please don't paint all of us on the same brush. It is something which people like saying very easily, no, members of Parliament, they promise this, they promise that. Not all of us do that route. And if you go that route, you are likely to be a one-term MP. Because you promise what you cannot deliver. When you go back to the electorate, you will have now to answer for what you have failed to do. So these are matters which, yes, there are weaknesses in Parliament. I don't dispute. But don't all just rubbish everything that is happening. There are some things which we're making some progress on. And one of the difficulties is the hot button issues are the ones which make the media. When it is corruption and whatever, you will find that one, a lot of media coverage. If your committee is dealing with something very basic, it is sometimes hard to find even one member of the press sitting in that committee. But when it is dealing with corruption and whatever, those are things which are hot button issues. So looking at the overall work of Parliament, there are a lot of other things which take place which may not fall within the visible spectrum of our work, but at the same time are equally important. I have to say something small about salaries. I am in my second term in Parliament. And from the time I entered Parliament to date, our salaries have not been increased. Where people are raising issue is the emoluments, and a lot of it hinges around the biggest proportion of the emolument is the transport, the fuel. And members of Parliament, your fuel is calculated, but we're being paid at 2,400 per litre. Those who drive a litre is more in the region of 3.6. If you're going for whatever, it's 3.6 to 4,000, depending on what fuel you're using. Now, that one has been increased at different times. In the 8th Parliament, we had a serious debate about MPs' transport, because it came in the report, the 120 million. MPs' transport. There are many officers of government at different levels who are entitled to and receive transport. In the 8th Parliament, when the matter was debated, we said, okay, if you want to provide transport as government with a driver and everything, it's okay. Personally, I will not object if you provide a vehicle and I use that vehicle to fare. But when the calculation was done, it was discovered that that route will be far more expensive to the country.
Honorable Akena, would you also object to a suggestion that you buy your own car, you drive your own car to Parliament, because Professor, when he was still teaching at Makerere, drove his own car, put in his own fuel, but went and taught, and he earned the salary he earned.
True. If that is the route we're going, I don't have a problem with it. But, hear me out. I don't have a problem personally. Where it is across board and it is equitably sorted out, I will not have a problem with that. The difficulty comes about in that at what point you will get local government officers at different levels having a vehicle, having a budget. where we're going to put that cutoff.
Can Parliament lead that kind of debate? Can you lead that kind of debate in Parliament? Because you said the government, you came from the perspective of equity. I remember that's what you said. And equity, you said, when you increase salaries, when the UPC government increased salaries, it increased across the board. The only difference was the percentages. Those earning higher got less. Those earning less got higher percentages. Is a debate that says Ugandans go to work every day, they pay their taxes from the little money they earn, teachers, policemen, prison warders, people who work in civil society, they don't get a transport allowance. Why should a member of parliament get a transport allowance? A car and mileage.
As I was saying, I don't have a problem in how we resolve it. As things stand, if you are to peg it on the scale of government workers, where you compare like a district chairman, a sub-county chairman, where would a member of parliament fall? When you use that government structure and try to structure an MP within that one, the cost will be far higher to the citizen. That was the calculation. If you say that we scrap MP salaries, we say MPs should not receive any emoluments and should perform the work, that is a different debate altogether. But it's a debate worth having. What do we need to put? The point which Honorable Jack raised earlier, that the house is too big, it is. But believe me, there is no politician who is interested in votes who is going to reduce that house. It's a fact. Don't expect the president to reduce it. Don't expect somebody, some political party which is trying to get to parliament or trying to get into government to reduce it. You can talk when you're out. When you get there, it will not be possible. That is some of the realities of politics.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can you pass the microphone to... Can I come back to you a little later? Because we need to get back more comments from the audience. Can you use a minute?
Charles, you see, this is what I was going to say. That when we come late, when we begin late, then we are pressurizing to talk in a short time. You are telling me use 1 minute, yet I wanted 2 minutes or 3, just 3. You see, I came early thinking we'd start at 10. We started at 11 something. And this is the problem. So we keep rushing through our discussion. For instance, we have not tackled very key areas of this report. For instance, political playing field. How is it? Can the parliament check the executive excesses and financial indiscipline? We have not tackled it. What of the case of interest groups? Do we really need these interest groups in parliament? We have not tackled it. What of the laws on natural resources, where laws are passed in a hurry? We have not handled it. We have not tackled cultural institutions. Do we need them? Should the public fund them? We have not tackled it. And we are being told, speak for a minute, speak for 20 minutes, 20 seconds. This is not how we are going to discuss national issues. And I'm one person who thinks that once we are going to talk about national issues, we should start at 9. Whoever has not come to hell, because you are now restricting me, who has put my time into this thing, and you are telling me speak for 1 minute. Let me finish. Now give me time to finish. That one of the problems that we are facing with this parliament is because of the type of parliamentarians we have. We can remove Honorable Akena, we can remove Honorable Wamai. But if you have the type of MPs who go to parliament and they do not know what their roles are, which is to legislate, which is to represent, which is to take the oversight function of the executive, then you will produce the kind of results of the audit you have seen. And consequently, if you want to hear my final thought, the moment an MP fuses his or her role with that of the executive, then you forget
the MP performing those three functions. Because some of our MPs have become agents of the executive, so they cannot check the executive. And yet it is the parliament that is supposed to check the excesses of the executive through their oversight function. This parliament cannot legislate for the poor, for the citizens, when they are dominated by the executive. And I want to say that the broader, wider political, social, economic, and cultural environment determines the caliber of the MPs we get. So if they cannot do a good job where the scorecard says excellent, 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 do not be surprised, because it is the caliber of MPs that you have in parliament. That is why they cannot do some of the things they are supposed to do. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate your concerns about restriction on time, but you know we started about 28 years ago, and we said we needed 4 years, then we asked for another 5 years, then we asked for another 10 years, and we kept asking for more time. There will never be enough time to discuss everything we want to discuss, especially when it comes to governance. And we need to start by practicing here to work with the time that we have so that other discussions can continue. Moses, there were questions put to you. Could you respond to those? And then Irene, there was, I think, a comment about your issue on what type of legislation, and especially the women's agenda. Where does it fit? So Irene, can you use a minute? Dr. Okida will come back to you later. Can you first?
Thank you, Charles. So just to respond first of all to the issue raised by Doreen on human rights, I think there have been certain steps that have been taken by Parliament to address the issue of prioritization of human rights. First of all, by the checklist that was launched by the Speaker herself, and then also instituting the Committee of Human Rights. Of course, now the question is how that committee is going to operate and how that committee is going to ensure that the issue of human rights comes and is the forefront in every legislation that it passes through. When you look at legislation that has been passed after the Human Rights Committee was instituted, we've still had a number of human rights issues that were coming up in that legislation. But I'd like to talk more on the issue that was raised by Mr. Crispy Kaheru and Vincent on the question of responsibility and failure of MPs to perform. And I think Dr. has touched a bit on it. When we're looking at the role of members of parliament, their role is really to audit the work that government is doing and to ensure transparency and accountability of the institution of government. The challenge becomes that what happens when there is no one to push for accountability of the individual members of parliament, which is why we come up with instances like, where do we turn to now? I think the multi-party system having come in opened doors for multiple representation, but we did not ensure enough checks and balances to check the extremes of multi-partyism, which is why you have now issues of how far should a caucus go, you know? And as we continue to develop, there will be other instances of pressures coming to come onto parliament. For example, as we continue to grow economically, we'll have the issue of lobbying. How far should lobbying go? How far should you get an MP to push a certain agenda? But to solve that, we need to create a checklist that ensures each individual member of parliament, while balancing their responsibilities and commitments to other factors, can still be held accountable for the things that they do within the House. For example, I do not know why in 2014, the Parliament of Uganda does not have an automated voting register. It is not becoming, right now, for Parliament to still vote on critical issues using ayes and nays. Every individual member of Parliament's position should be noted. We should know what Honorable Akena's voice or vote is on a particular issue. So that, regardless of whose interests they're promoting, it's easy for us as citizens to hold a particular member of Parliament accountable when something goes wrong. Thank you.
There was a question about, Dr. Olom raises it, representation of affirmative action. I mean the continuation of the affirmative action provision. I know it's part of the issues that are being raised in the ongoing free and fair elections discussion. And like I informed you, there is a discussion going on right now in Kabale. I'm told it's going very well. There are about 103 members, male, about 26 female, debating issues in that discussion going on in Kabale now. And one of the issues is what should citizens include in a discussion on amendments to the Constitution, reform of the Electoral Commission? Those are issues that have been raised by SEDU, UGMP, and other actors in that line. What is your view? Do you think after this is the 9th Parliament from the 6th Parliament, so 4 parliaments in between, do we still need to go into the next election making special provision for affirmative action seats?
I think affirmative action in any society is very important because you help balance communities or constituencies that have been largely marginalized. For Parliament, I think it's important to have representation for certain groups. I think the question we should be asking in regard to special interest groups in Parliament is the issue of term limits. If it is a platform to help promote and push ideas for women or for young people, how long are you going to stand on a party ticket? If we want to increase the number of women going into Parliament, should we then not limit the opportunity for members of Parliament standing on that ticket to maybe 1 term or 2 terms and then give opportunity to someone else? Or if it's for young people, at what age do we say, okay, now you no longer represent the views of these people, or you can no longer count yourself as a marginalized person or a person in a special interest group while you're representing the constituents? I think that's where the debate needs to go.
Thank you very much. Moses, can you respond to the issue that was raised to you? You represent some views of a few people, you ignore the others.
Okay, thank you very much, Charles. I thank the audience for the questions you raised. My brother, I call him Ambassador, thank you very much for your question. A little is done at the constituency level. I want to inform you that most members of Parliament, they don't know the importance of the media. Me, I report in Parliament, but there are some members of Parliament, when they are traveling to do their constituency work, they don't even alert a journalist to go with him or her, to tell him or her that I'm doing this to the voters. So I feel that is a weakness and it should be addressed. And when I'm here at the national level, we call them up-country reporters. We have journalists who are based at the regional level. Please, you can get in touch with those journalists at the regional level to see that they bring out your issues, which are of
I think his question was that you report what members say on the steps of Parliament, not or in the plenary, because you miss out a lot of important contributions that happen either in committees or in plenary, and get the quick comments in the parliamentary foyer or on the steps.
Okay, that one will be addressed. But if I can continue on the issue of the balanced view, one of the cardinal roles of journalism is balanced view. And apart from being the Secretary General of Uganda Parliamentary Press Association, I work with Impact Radio and Alpha FM. And I happen to produce one of the talk shows. At the same time, I present a program on Alpha FM. And I've tried to balance my talk shows with all the views which I always discuss on the floor, not on the floor, or on the show. You find that you invite an NRM, you are going to discuss a topic, you invite an NRM person, you also invite somebody from the opposition so that you can get a balanced view. But at the end of the day, especially people from the ruling party, they let you down. What if you do, and the program is starting in 10 minutes, and somebody tells you, please, I'm unable to come? What do you do when you have somebody who is from opposition, is already seated in the studio? Do you close the program, or you continue with it? So that one, I think, also need to be addressed. And remember, we raised this one with the former Prime Minister of Uganda, Mama Mbabazi, and he had said that he's going to address this one with his members, especially from the ruling party. Others were just comments, but Charles, if you can allow me to comment about the roles of members of Parliament. I was equating to when you are dating a woman or a lady, you have to use all the means to make sure that you win her heart, either to become your someone. So as a member of Parliament, don't see them promising heaven and earth. They have to make sure that they promise heaven and earth so that they come to parliament. But there is a fully-fledged department in parliament, public relations, and I know it is represented here. I think, Charles, if you can give them time, they will explain what they do. They are supposed to do this work, and they will be able to speak for themselves.
Thank you. I've been also told that if you want the quickest divorce, is to borrow a car to go and date a woman, and then you don't own the car. So promising a bridge where there is no river is equivalent to that. You don't say you live in Muyanga when you live in Katanga. That's a bad lie to tell. Dr. Wakida, you have a microphone on your table. If you could comment generally on some of the issues that have been raised, maybe in a minute.
Charles, you see, you don't expect clean water when you have not cemented your wells. It's philosophical. We are getting our members of parliament from these communities. I call them these communities. And whatever you are going to see as a member of parliament, in most cases represents the population from which they come from. There is a very high level of ignorance, and this is very true with our population. The population does not know who is the master and who is the subject, to the extent that these honorable MPs you see here, they are regarded highly as bosses of their own subjects, to the extent that it would even be very difficult for them to evaluate them. And this is what I said from the beginning. There are laws that have been passed for our country, and my sister here has alluded to them, which I find not necessary in a country that is still nurturing democracy, that you want special representation. You want people of this caliber representing the other. The question I will be asking this audience. In the House, it's a question of voting, and the voting is by number. When these groups are in that House, which side are they likely to vote? Are they likely to vote on the side of the people? Do they feel they pay allegiance to the people who voted them? Or there is somebody who gave them that special recognition for whom they are always going to vote? Those are very serious questions. The reality of the matter is, until when the civil society, the CEDU, and the citizen coalition work towards making the population know their roles, whatever we are discussing here will be inconsequential, because it even becomes very difficult for a citizen out there to audit an MP for whom they don't know their roles. And that's very common. I am very sure if you went back in the village and asked your parents, what should the MPs be doing? They will tell you they are supposed to be making roads for us. They are supposed to be paying fees. They are supposed to be attending barriers. But that is not the cardinal principles, Honorable Man. Because people don't know, they have not defined the terms of reference. They don't know the terms of reference for which they are employing these people. It becomes very difficult to do an evaluation of those they send. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you very much. I hate to become part of the debate, but sometimes I'm provoked too. And Doctor, I'd like to disagree with you. I think Ugandans are generally very rational people. If they know that Parliament is not going to help them fix a broken health infrastructure or have schools where their children can go to and get a decent education, they're going to compromise and ask the Member of Parliament to subsidize the education of their child in a school they think is better. If the Member of Parliament does not arrive in Parliament and say the problem, to deal with my problems of sharing my emoluments with my constituents, is to fix and have schools that can teach an education that can bring every Ugandan, give them an equal opportunity to arrive here and be discussing here or arrive in Parliament, then they have accepted to keep subsidizing the education. Because you'll find that a majority of the people will ask a Member of Parliament not because they're going to contribute that money to a UPE school. They want that money because they have their child in possibly a private school that they think is better than the village school in their village. So I think it is squarely the responsibility of members of parliament. But it's not my debate here. And I'll not,
there is a point I want to clarify here. And this is to do...
Can you turn the microphone on? Push it forward. Okay. Should be working.
This is to do with the expectations of the ordinary voters to their leaders. The other day, I did this survey and I found out that people rated education one of the best and the most progressive sector. They still did health. Now that runs to the fact that their expectations are being put low. They don't expect so much. When, and many of you in the audience, I want to ask you, what are the expectations of your parents of you? Is it about job? No. The expectation, the cardinal expectation is that my child should go to school, irrespective of whether the child is going to learn, whether the teachers will be there. Then you have this population, this young population, who have not had a chance to understand the role of government in service delivery, to the extent that when you ask them, if I ask those guys in the village, has the government delivered health services? Is the quality of health services today better than it was before? What do you have to refer to? If the definition of Akadwali Okape is the drug shop, is the clinic, is the pharmacy, then they have defined the performance of government on health services at 100%. Because as you get out of your house, you will find a drug shop, you will find a pharmacy, you will find a clinic. So
thank you.
Service delivery in that context is...
Thank you. I see Jack itching to say something, but I kindly ask you to hold it. Let's get a few more comments from the audience, and then we'll take one round from the audience. I'm afraid we don't have leverage to stay here as long as we want. Any extra time we spend, we'll have to pay for it. And I don't think UGMP, Professor maybe from his retirement package might help us to meet that bill. So let me pick a few. Can I start with Agnes? She's from the Public Relations Office of Parliament. She's seated right at the back. Yes, Agnes.
Thank you, Charles. Mine is just to inform you, as the Honourable Members rightly put it up, that we have done an extensive campaign right way back before even the new 9th Parliament came in, educating the public on the role of Parliament. We have used different campaigns. One was Know Your Parliament, then Parliament and the People, and the current campaign is the role of an MP. It is so unfair for someone to stand on the floor and say that Parliament has not done anything to educate the public about the role of Parliament and a role of an MP. We are always in newspapers. We are always on radio. We have radio jingles that are playing in different languages all over the country. We have extended the hand of reaching out to the people, going to different parts of the country. The most recent being in Moroto, trying, being with the people and letting the people understand what Parliament is. And people out down there on the grassroots have shown it to us. By the number of times they come to visit Parliament, I can tell you, we have almost more than 200 people visiting Parliament on a daily basis. And we are always there to receive them and inform them on what they should expect of their MPs and members of Parliament. Now, what I urge you students who are here, and probably Mr. Crispy Kaheru, please forgive me if I pronounce your name wrongly, kindly reach out to us. Our mobile phones, our email addresses are all public information. You can reach for any information you want about Parliament and you will get it. So if you really are interested in knowing, and the other thing I'm forgetting is that the reason why we are here, previously they would invite us for such meetings and we would not come because we do not understand what Parliament is. And we are all here because we know the value of Parliament and the role of our MPs. That's why we are here to debate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Crispy, I hope you didn't intend to intimidate Agnes by walking close to her when she was criticizing you. But to the credit of Parliament, I think you also have one of the few active and regularly updated websites, which also has the full list of members of Parliament, both those directly elected and those who are ex-official members, and in most cases, their telephone numbers. From my experience, those telephone numbers actually do work for the members of Parliament. Can we have, I'm going to pick 3 comments from this side. I'm going to pick 2 comments from this side, 1 comment from here, and I'll pick 1. You shifted from where you were. Because I had been seeing you, I wanted to ask you to speak from where you were. Let me pick, let's have the lady there. That lady, yes?
Thank you very much. I'm Musmenta Edith Achen, a student at Ndeje University doing public relations. The first question that I would like to ask, we're here to discuss, is the 9th Parliament delivering to to citizens' expectations? MPs, can I ask how many are present here? Can you please raise your hands, like how many are here? 2?
Looks like it.
Two members, honorables, representing us here. And what are we talking about? All the questions that we need to be answered, need to drive straight to these MPs, and we're having only 2 to answer these questions. Please, all the honorables out there that are watching and are listening to this program right now, they need to put in effort and come and attend this, what we are talking about right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There were actually 3 because Paul Muiro had to leave earlier. So can I pick another comment from there? Let me see. There's another lady there. There? Yes. The hand up there. In black. Someone is complaining that I am biased. I am not guilty of, I'll plead guilty, but I can't apologize. Yes, ask your question.
Thanks, Charles. I'm a student from Beijing.
Could you raise your voice? We can't hear you. Put the microphone closer.
For me, I'll just urge the members of Parliament, especially those on the opposition side, to not join the Parliament bearing selfish interests, but instead address the issues of their electorate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If all the comments were that precise and short, we would have made a significant progress. So bring the microphone to the people who are complaining that I am biased. Let me be biased by selecting them. You bring it to the gentleman here, John Murungi. No, the other one.
Well, Charles, thank you very much. Members, well, to me, I think we are expecting a lot from this Parliament. Why? Well, it raises this question we've always wanted to always pose around here. The qualification of the members of Parliament. What do you expect from a P7 person who has finished P7, then this person studies a certificate in know your business, then then studies another one, then it is equivalent to senior 6. What do you expect on? Well, comrades, to me, I think we are expecting a lot from this Parliament. Let us review the qualifications.
You vote for them. So why do you vote for them? Someone who has who's doing a patchwork to raise the equivalent of. Bring the microphone to here. I'm afraid, gentlemen and ladies, I'll not be fair to everybody because it's our attempt to be fair that has led us to where we are. Let's have the gentleman here.
I'm Justus Rugambwa. I'm from Geneva. If I came not 100% convinced that we need a private members bill on right-sizing the Parliament, I think today I'm convinced. The only frustration I've got is that the House is incapable of doing something about it. And this is the reason why I say that. And I think I don't buy the idea that our parliament is not capable, because this evaluation is about the institution of parliament. But I think we also need to do it simultaneously with evaluation of individual parliamentarians. What we have is a burden of a huge section of parliament that are doing nothing. Number one, it is outright theft, doing nothing, and we are paying 25 million or so per month for those very many. That is one. Two, each of those doing nothing wants to meet the expectations of being an MP in Kampala. Three, because there are so many, their power base is being eroded. Representing a sub-county, competing with an area councillor representing the area in a district, erodes the power base of individual MPs when interacting with the executive. Three, when they are absent because there are too many, it is not felt. Four, even the space, allocation of time on the floor of parliament, if they were all to be there, then even if we bought iPads, salaries, space, because there are too many, we shall continue paying taxes, but they will not feel it. So, for me, the question is, what do we do? How do we spearhead the emergence of a private member's bill, which is not in the interest of the majority of members of parliament to right-size the parliament?
Who do you want to answer that question?
It is a very big issue. I think it goes back to citizens and the pressure, the type of pressure that we exert.
Thank you very much. Professor Yasinolo, the Speaker of Parliament gives these members 2 minutes to speak. And then she has the central control, she cuts them off. So we go back there after the debate. I saw a gentleman, he was, I think, among the first to raise his hands. The gentleman in between those 3 hands, the one who has the hand in the middle. Yes.
Thank you, Charles. Musema Mdathiri Bruce is my name, and I come from Arua municipality, which is one of the 214 constituencies in Uganda. The question is, the 9th parliament delivering to citizens expectation? To me, I think it is no. And the no should have 3 zeros with an exclamation at the end. Why I'm saying this? Article 79 of Uganda's constitution is very clear about roles played by MPs in the floor of parliament. And of those, the most interesting is, one of the clauses of that Article 79 says, MP's role is to enact law that can attract or bring development in the country. So if we talk of development, in the bills that we pass, what do you look at? Indeed, they do play their roles, but the selection criteria they use is, I think, when they have blind eyes. Why do I say so? Among the laws or bills which are passed, like miniskirt, homosexuality, have they taken trouble to understand the community they are leading or representing? Look at this young age. All are not certain about where they will be after university. Jobs are not there. What law have MPs enacted blocking investors that come in the name of investment, but they are sitting in shops that do not even employ 2 people? What role do MPs play in enacting a law that can attract or empower the young people who are right now doing businesses out of entrepreneurship? I have a testimony that even in my constituency, 70% of the youth who benefited from the government youth grant, which it turned into a usual loan, have lost all their businesses. Was it meant to promote development or demote people so that they only look at how they can be given handouts by these MPs? I'm among people who look at MPs who must give much. If from an MP you ask 5,000, I expect him to give 50,000. Because if you can create an environment that can make me be independent in order to reduce the burden ratio, then you are the first one to be able to cater for my interest. So the root cause of MPs running away from their electorates is because they claim to be the ones who should provide. That's why they don't look at their interest.
Thank you very much.
Given now, lastly, Charles.
Thank you very much.
I'm sitting, Charles.
Can you be a Democrat?
Yes,
allow
I'm
other
sitting.
people to make a contribution.
I'm sitting.
Can you pass the microphone
What
to the
I would
lady there?
say now, in a nutshell, is...
Please. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not want to pretend to be a Democrat. To pretend to be a Democrat will be to give each one of you as much time as possible and each one of you to speak. I promise that I'll take the microphone this way and I'm taking it this way. I know I have some friends here, so can you move to this corridor here? I know I have some friends and I'm sorry about that. Take it to the back, the gentleman at the extreme end, the hand towards the door.
Thank you for this great opportunity. My name is Integrasto, from a student from Undeja University. For me, I would say that the 9th Parliament has not delivered to its expectation because, first of all, one of my favorite politicians says that most of the Parliament members were good at reading deaf announcements at their villages. That is Tamale Mirondi. So I think most of them were elected because they were popular in reading the deaf announcements in their villages. Another thing, the 9th Parliament still, most people don't know the work of the Parliament. For when you go back to our village, all our lords have deep holes because of our Parliament members is not doing his work. For me, I think we change the government.
Members of Parliament don't build roads. That's not one of their jobs.
It's okay, but they campaign for the building of the roads. I think we can change the government so that we get good Parliament members who deliver according to our expectation.
Thank you very much. Can you give it to that gentleman there? The gentleman in glasses? No. Here.
Thank you very much. My name is Mate Joffre. I'm from Makerere Debate Union. I've been following this discussion, but it is centering on the demands of the citizens and what members of parliament meet. But then my question to Honorable Jack is that should members of parliament bend down to the demands of these people and ignore the kind of Uganda, the vision that we want to see of the future Ugandans? What am I meaning? If these people, suppose, do you want to adverse that very suggestion that day? I want to refer you to the by-election of Kiza Winfred in 2012, where billions of money were given out in Kasese, but people voted wisely and contrary to what had been told to them by the money given. And secondly, is on the issue of separation of power. We have a parliament where executive members are part of the parliament. Now, who checks who? Where 78 of them would be part of the cabinet and also part of the parliament. So I see that as one of the problems that would be affecting our existing parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I need to make a few announcements now. Like I promised, I will not pretend to be a Democrat because democracy sometimes creates more districts. They actually are not 114 constituencies. There are many more. We have 112 districts. The constituencies are many more. We have 386 members of parliament, including the ex-officials, and there are only about 10 or so ex-officials. Two announcements. Someone says, Mwesegwa Mark from Kampala International University says, since the citizens do not know the roles of their members of parliament, who is supposed to teach these people about what their MPs are supposed to do? Because many citizens know that their MPs should be delivering services to them. And if you need to continue this debate, apart from Twitter and Facebook, where we announced already, and the social interactions we'll have from here, the Uganda Youth Network, UYONET, conducted a study on special interest representation, specifically on youth representation, and it's called the Audit on Performance of Youth MPs in Parliament. It was launched 2 weeks ago, and it can be found on the UYONET website. For colleagues who joined us from Makerere University, your bus should be in the parking right now, because this message came in about 3 minutes ago, and they said it would be here in 5 minutes, and you'll be exiting exactly 5 minutes from from the time this message was delivered here. And someone says, we regret any inconveniences. It is from your transport coordinator. Now, that means we need to end this discussion at this point. I'm going to ask Professor Arthur B. Kwesiga to make a few remarks to end this discussion, but I'll give an opportunity to the Honorable Jack Wamanga Wamai because he was itching to say something and I denied him that opportunity. So Jack, could you speak in a minute? And then I will be asking Professor Kwesiga to come, and I can see the students are exiting.
Thank you very much, Charles. Charles, the issue I want to talk about is emoluments. That is very touchy to the public, to students, to every Ugandan. They think members of parliament get a lot of money. The salary actually is about 1.7 million. Now the rest are allowances, depending from where you come from. Honorable James Akene talked about that you are given allowance per kilometer you cover to come to parliament. So that's how you see people getting different salaries. You must have read in the papers that members of parliament are so indebted. So I want to tell you that what they get does not even meet the requirement. Now the other issue about the cars, people talk a lot about cars. And I want to agree with the public that people are given money to buy cars and they went and bought even inferior vehicles. What the government should have done, what parliament should have done is to guarantee a loan or members of parliament to be advanced loans to buy new cars, and members of parliament should pay back within 5 years to own those vehicles. That one I agree entirely. But parliament is the third arm of government. There's the judiciary, there's the executive, they're all provided with transport. Now, how do you expect a member of transport of parliament to travel from Arua to come to the house? He needs transport.
Thank you very much, Honorable. Thank you very much, members of the audience. Thank you very much for being such a wonderful audience. I would like, kindly, if you're not a student from Makere, if you didn't come in the bus, please, you don't have to move out now. Let's listen to the last word. Let me thank the Uganda Governance Monitoring Platform for putting us together this morning and afternoon. Let me thank all of you for turning up, and can you join me to thank our panel for your contributions? That's not strong enough. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, can I ask Professor Arthur just a big Kwesiga to come and speak to us? Thank you very much.
Honorable members of parliament, ladies and gentlemen, protocol observed. We are already 3 hours late, and I don't think I should make the situation worse. I would like to make 2 or 3 points. One, that I would like to thank all of you very, very much for coming to participate in this debate. As I said earlier on, it is a debate that we hope does not end here, but will also go beyond the city into other institutions. I'm glad that many of you are students, and I do hope that when you go back to your universities, you'll be able to create an opportunity where you can share with other students the kind of debates that are taking place, especially the kind of debates being organized by UGMP, Uganda Governance Monitoring Platform, debates which give a chance to the ordinary citizens, the ordinary people, a chance for them to realize that it is in their interest and that they have the power to change the status quo that they are in, and also the status quo of all these other people who are not normally involved in this kind of debates. As you say so, I want to reassure you that the Citizen Manifesto was something done intensively. We went around the whole country asking people their views about the kind of government, the kind of governance, the kind of MPs, the kind of representatives that they would like to see in place in terms of what they expect them to do. And that is what we are hanging on now, where we again go back to the same people and say, this is what you want from your leaders.